Hey guys, we are less than 24 hours to the second administration of the AP test. And so I just wanted to take just a few minutes to come online and say good luck to you guys as you're about to take this test, and just a few pointers. We're in the final home stretch. You have less than 24 hours. And what is the best advice that I can give you in this time? Number one, I would make sure that you are fully set up in the digital app to take this. Now, there's like two steps to this of things that you should remember. One, you need to load the actual exam and make sure that it's on your device. So just know you want to make sure that's good to go. Your teacher has a progress little dashboard, and we can see to make sure you're good. And so there's just kind of this thing where you set up the exam. You got to push some buttons, agree to some things, watch a video you can't skip by, but you need to make sure that's good today, okay? Secondly, there is practice. So there's two tabs, something, and then practice. And so if you want to do some practice on there and get used to the feel of the app, I highly, highly recommend that. So there's kind of two sides of the app. Make sure that it's good to go. You're good to go. Figure out any of your tech issues today so that you're ready to go tomorrow. All right. Let me talk through some of my favorite advice to give students at this point in the day. Number one, take today and do your prep. Do whatever you can to study. I think one of the best strategies at this point, and maybe this is old school, I don't know, is to do some timelining. And so we have our major periods of the course, right? 1200 to 1450, that's units 1 and 2. 1450 to 1750, 3 and 4. 1750, 1900, and then 1900 to present, right? And so I would chart out, maybe even by region. We're doing this a little bit today. I have a review, just a few minutes with my students. But what we are going to be doing is we are going to be kind of charting out major empires, who was ruling when, and so that you could, in your mind, mentally go like, well, in China at this time, right? 1750, who's ruling, right? What's going on in India at that time? What's going on in the Americas at that time? So you have a nice kind of like chart just to go over that. I think that's helpful. And then you're able to think through what are the big themes of each of those time chunks, right? Periods, like the units 1 and 2 with 1200 to 1450, you're thinking trade, you're thinking Mongols, you're thinking state building, right? When you go to 1450 to 1750, you're thinking land-based empires, maritime empires, the connection of the world. When we get to the next period, 1750 to 1900, we're thinking revolutions, we're thinking industrial revolution, people responding to the industrial revolution. Like, you want to be able to like think, what are the big ideas, and then what's going on in these states. And then finally, 1900 to present, the wars, World War I, II, Cold War, right? Globalization. Like, that's essentially, you should be able to kind of know that. And I think that's super helpful. And then you can kind of like add more detail as you go, right? What kind of major events should I know? Like, where does the Opium Wars show up, right? All those kind of things. Number two, I don't know. I'm going to lose track of these numbers. I'm not a math person. So timeline, know your dates. Not necessarily dates, like I need to know 1850, but like just like kind of where in history these things are by time period. Okay. Also, I've been noticing, because we've been able to look at kind of the practice tests and, you know, the questions that come out, a few maybe areas that seem to show up frequently on the test that maybe are less familiar to you. I would make sure, right, that you know about the Ottomans. They seem to always make it on the test. I would know about the Mughals, also seem to make it on the test. From the two practice tests that we've given through the lockdown browser, it seems as though Mexico has shown up on the text, like Mexican Revolution, which is more modern. I don't need you to know a ton, but just like I would refresh because it might make you feel comfortable. I think you can do all those tasks without that. And Brazil seems to show up. And again, I didn't cover a lot of Brazil at all. I don't know, throw in the chat. Did you guys get anything about Brazil besides like they were a Portuguese colony? Treaty of Tordesillas? I don't know. Like, so I would maybe look at those things and just kind of fill in some of those blanks, because they kind of show up. All those questions are totally able to be answered without a lot of back knowledge by using your skills of sourcing and digging into those time periods. Okay, so that's it. Next tip, whatever number we're on, read the prompt. I know that sounds so simple, but my goodness gracious, a lot of times what people do is like they think they know what it's about and they answer something that's not the prompt, okay? So especially with your DBQ, which is 25% of your grade, read the prompt, make sure you're answering it, okay? Same with SAQs. next tip. When we are looking at these things, I want you to remember the differences in verbs on SAQs, right? Identify is a shorter answer than describe, or even longer is explain. And usually it kind of goes easier to harder in your SAQs. So if you're struggling on the last one, that's fine. Or maybe you got the last one. They're all worth the same weight, but again, you don't need as lengthy of a response if it's identified, okay? So those are the big things there. Make sure you're giving specifics in all of your answers. Another big thing, if we're just like feeling the test, when you are doing the test, I want you to make sure that this is totally, well, I don't want you to make sure, I just want you to know that when you take the test, I did this even last time, last week did a practice DBQ, I didn't read any of it, and I wrote it with the students. And I was reading it, and I was like, man, this is really hard. I read the prompt, wasn't really sure what the prompt exactly was getting at. I'm like, okay, it's fine. And I'm the teacher here. So I want you to know that it is totally normal for you to be taking a test and feeling like, I don't know this. And kind of that anxiety comes up. And you need to just be like, chill, anxiety. We don't have time for you today. I need to figure out what these documents say. And then read your documents, right? Try to annotate it. Use the testing app. You can annotate in there. Use scrap paper. But then while you're doing that, usually after you read it, like maybe get 2 documents in, look at the prompt again. Like, what does this mean? And then you're looking for that information. Okay, so do not freak out. Manage your anxiety, knowing that it's totally normal to read something and be like, I don't get it. I feel like the last exam, that was paper one, that was 2 weeks ago or whatever, they had a really hard SAQ one. Shout out to that SAQ, because I had to read it a couple times and I felt like, man, this is kind of difficult. Okay, so just know that if anything is super difficult for you and you feel like you've prepared, it's probably difficult for other people. And again, they don't curve, norm it, whatever. Feels like the same thing to me. But just know, just take your time, read the passage, etc. Watch your time to make sure you're not taking too much time, but then go through that and be like, I'm going to be able to do this. I will get more as I read it and reread it and go back to the prompt. And if you don't come up with anything, it's not the end of the world. Okay. Just do your best on that. Also, something that I noted from the last test, paper test, to this one, we have a different test. As you know, we're not doing an LEQ on the digital one. One of the things I would be prepared for and kind of pay attention to, and I'm reviewing with my students as well yet today, is that there is 3 SAQs like normal. You don't get to pick your third one like they did online. The online one from last week or 2 weeks ago talked a lot about changes in continuities. So like thinking through what's changes, what's continuities. Remember, there's some go-to continuities, patriarchy, right? Women don't have rights, men do. You see some continuities with religion. Okay. Think of things that are kind of over the course of this year. There's usually some sort of social hierarchy. There is typically people that use coerced labor, depending on what that looks like. There are some definite changes in all of those things. Women get more rights, right? We end slavery, et cetera, et cetera. But think through changes and continuities. Just because it showed up on the last test, that might be something good to review. But you'll have 3 SAQs. It'll be a primary source, a map, and another primary source. And it says the years are 1200 to 2001. So try to, if it does say that on the test and it does say 2001, don't try to give anything that's more recent than that. Okay, because that won't work for your evidence. The second set is a data set, meaning you're going to get a graph or a chart and then another secondary source. So everything that you do will not look like question 3 or 4 from the paper exam, just so that you're aware of that. Okay. But otherwise, pay attention. A lot of the multiple choice sections, like use your time, make sure you answer all the questions. Okay. At the end of the day, be chill, read the prompt, take it down. And then this is the last thing. I say this every single year, and I think it's the most important thing that I'm about to tell you right now. At the end of the day, this is just a test. Okay. I know that society tells us that these things really matter, and in your head you think you need this to get into college or to save money in college, and it determines a lot of stuff. It doesn't. It's just a test. It's just going to measure what you know from the time tomorrow, the 3 hours, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, what you can do in that time period. It doesn't know what's going on in your world. It doesn't know what went on this year. Let's just be right. we're still in the middle of a pandemic and we're still figuring things out. And maybe yours, like my school, like we're virtual all first semester. I saw my students twice a week. That's it. And then we moved to like a hybrid, and then we moved to kind of a more hybrid, but we see each other more a week in person. Like, it's a weird year. Like, give yourself some grace, and like, it's just a test at the end of the day. And what is more important, there's a lot of things that are more important than this test, is one, all the work that you've done will prepare you to do other classes just as well, okay? It will prepare you for other classes in college. It will prepare you for other AP classes in high school, okay? I know that doesn't like feel great, but it's the reality. And you know what else it doesn't do? It doesn't determine your self-worth. It doesn't determine your success or the likelihood of your success in the future. It's just a test, okay? It's just a test. And you're going to go in there and you're going to do your thing. You're going to prepare as much as you can today, even if you're just starting out. And you're going to do your best. And then when you're done, you're going to wipe it off and know that at the end of the day, you're going to learn something from this class. You're going to learn something about these skills. I bet you became a better writer. And most importantly, the most important thing about you is not your academics. The most important thing about you is your character and how you treat people and the things that you want to do to leave an impact on the world. And that's what matters, okay? You, what's inside of you really matters, not how you can perform for colleges or your parents or your teachers or whatever. You matter. You matter. You matter. And what you've learned through this process is more important than the end goal and whatever score you get. Okay. So do your best. I need to go do a review with my own very students. And we will see you after this. I'd love to hear how you guys do on the exam. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you need to, go through those unit videos today that I have. 1 through 9 is live. 1 through 9, do your best. There's Quizlets in the area below. Put in the time tonight, get a good night's sleep, wake up tomorrow, rock this test. You got this. We will see you next time. Good luck, my friends.